morning, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. As I was sitting here, thinking and preparing, um, I am also paying attention to my phone right now, which is not my usual way to go. And this actually is part of my story. Um, as some of you know, and some of you don't know, I think my story of mediumship and working with animals, I'm not one who I felt I was born with it. I didn't have a traditional religious upbringing, and I think that when I saw people who were mediums or who did spiritual work, it was very other to me, and I assumed, oh, I get chills as I say that. It was very other to me, and I thought, to be able to have this gift or do this, first I had a lot of doubt, a lot of skepticism, and I appreciate, I know Susan's here and you're reading my story. I've published, I've been publishing a story of the story I never thought I would tell. And as it occurred to me, as I got this text from my cousin, who's actually my dad's cousin, that I wasn't a person who could necessarily hear what was coming in from spirit. I needed what I think our friend Shannon Rattay, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, would call earth angels. And there is my cousin Michelle coming in. So she's going to hear this story for the first time. So earth angels. So again, I speak from my experience, but I also speak from my experience of how I thought this was supposed to be. And I suppose, I thought that, you get messages and and you'd have clarity. And, hi, Michelle. And you just have this sense of deep understanding and, this oneness with all it is and this belief, this unwavering belief. And that's what I felt every time I tried to go to a church service with a friend or, read something spiritual. I'm like, it's out there. It's just not for me. And so I kind of was like, okay, maybe that's for other people and that's okay. But I think, as you all know, spirit doesn't work like that. And I think of, the phrase that we've all heard, when one door closes, another opens. And that story we've all heard of, the man on the roof as there's a flood and God's like, but I sent you the boat. I sent you the thing. I sent you all the things. Um, I was probably more like the guy on the roof with the flood of like, but I'm coming in from every angle. Don't you see that I'm here for you? Oh my gosh, I'm getting really emotional, but also really emotional because of the beautiful healing from Kelly and Stacia and Kim, your poems, and Fran. My gosh, all these poems, like we're all here, we're all in these same places, and this, like the synchronicities and all these things that led us from here to there. So, um, for those of you who don't know my story, again, my father passed away when I was very young. I was 4 years old. He was killed in an accident, and so I think that some of that loss stuck with me. Of the, normal family is what other people have. You know, close, loving people around is what other people have because mine was gone. And yet, being up on that roof, I kept finding the ways and I kept finding the places and I kept finding the people who made me feel, as I tell my kids, find the people who make you feel like sunshine. Um, and so, I'm going to fast forward to this journey because at a certain point, I did start paying attention and I did start believing things might not just be coincidences. And as we'll hear from the animals in a bit, I started being pretty sure I was hearing information that I was supposed to hear that wasn't just my own thoughts. Um, and it was, I don't even want to say jarring as much as it was, oh, well, this is not what I was expecting my life to be like. Like I didn't expect this. This wasn't part of my plan. To have horses talking to me or dogs or to be able to, help a bird. Um, there's a bird who lost her fires in the, I think I shared this the last time I was on, lost her home in the fires in Malibu last year. And her mom and she have moved into a new home. They have beautiful vistas again, and the bird's speaking again. And I was like, I helped do that. Like, and I didn't help the bird come back to speaking, but I did help her have a voice that she didn't have for a little bit. And I don't take any of this lightly. Um, Except I do have a pretty good grain of salt sense of humor about it, again, because I did not come into this believing, one, anything, and two, that it was meant for me. And so back to my cousin Michelle, who's here. So one of the things that I believed growing up after my dad was gone was that his family didn't care about us. After he died, we had a couple years where we had stayed in touch loosely with my dad's family, and then it was gone. And it was just like gone. Like we had no pictures of my dad growing up in our home, just from my albums as a child. Like I have just a handful. And I wrote a piece recently that Susan, on your end of Substack, you won't get it for months, but it's a piece about the 1,672 days that my dad and I were on Earth together. And trying to capture these memories and trying to capture these little things that made me feel like I belonged to something bigger. And so Earth Angels, as I was saying earlier with referencing Shannon, so during the pandemic, I did a lot of ancestry research. And I was like, okay, so the family exists, I just don't know them. And then, I'd sort of think about it sometimes. I had a way to get in touch, maybe. My aunt, my dad's sister, she had a website. I found an email, and I was like, it's just, it's not meant to be. It's not meant for me. This whole sense of family. And one day I was in with one of my earth angels, my chiropractor, and I was telling him the story, and I was like, I have this information and I don't know what to do. He's also estranged from his family, and he said, "You've got to reach out to her." And so, back on that roof, there was my boat. There was my boat, my life vest, and I was like, "You think?" He's like, "Well, yeah, absolutely. If there's a chance you could know more, why wouldn't you find out?" And so, if anyone's read my story, you know that I don't take anything that I hear the first time as a directional. I have to hear it like a third time, maybe sometimes a fourth time. And so I've been mulling this over, but I'm hearing it in the back of my head, this earth angel, my chiropractor, saying, "You got it. You got to do it. You got to reach out." And then one day, it was right before Thanksgiving, I was talking with my therapist. It's been now, I think, 6 years since I stopped speaking with my mom and my dad, or my stepdad, and that side of the family. So, really finding family and community in a different way. And Thanksgiving's always been kind of a charged holiday for me because it was my mom's holiday, and I chose not to be a part of it anymore. And it's unfortunately it's been a great choice. Again, not the path I would have thought. And so there I was talking with my therapist about family and chosen family, and the people who show up for you, and the people who weren't assigned to you but maybe were. And I said, "Well, what do you think about my aunt?" What do you think about the situation that I have? I have an email, I have a thing. And so we talked about it, and she's a very good therapist. She didn't actually tell me what to do. She said, figure out what you're looking for, figure out what you're trying to find. And so, thank you. And so, minutes after that session, because I think, after the third or fourth person to say, "Yeah, maybe it's okay," Earth Angels need to do a lot of heavy lifting with me. I sent an email to my aunt, who I hadn't seen in person since 1994, and who I'd never had a relationship with, and who'd tried to reach out. And my mother had asked me not to connect. And I sent a very tentative email, and I said, "Hi, it's Karen. your brother's daughter. Um, I'm wondering if you'd be open to having a connection. My mom had asked me not to reach out, but I don't talk to her anymore. And so here I am. I'm doing it. And 10 minutes later, my aunt responded. And with an aunt, I also got cousins. Not my cousins, but my dad's cousins. And I'm so, so thrilled that my cousin Michelle is here today. Um, and Michelle, you're going to have to turn your camera on because this is a community where we have cameras on. Um, and I did not know I could be received with so much love and so much grace and so much delight and curiosity. Um, like I said, I didn't know that that was there for me. And I didn't know that it would take all my earth angels to keep pushing for me to actually listen. And for, the one who's been such a great healer to me, actually two great healers, to be the ones that could sink in enough for me to take a risk and send an email and now have um, more in my life than I ever thought was possible. And so I share that um, because when I write and when I share my story, it's because I'm skeptical and because I'm reluctant and because it didn't come to me the way I thought it was supposed to. And what I've learned as being a human person is there is no supposed to. And there's Larry too. Um, there is no supposed to. We're human and we're doing our best. And when spirit gives us something to work with, we work with it. And whether that's like a chunk of marble, like, a Da Vinci sculpture that's like years to refine, or, the present that's handed over to you that you get to unwrap immediately, it's all there for us to work with. And so as we're entering the season of spring, which I love because there's so much more light and so much more warmth and so much more, at least in this hemisphere, so much more space to just enjoy all that nature gives us. That's always been a very healing place for me. Um, I guess the short end of the story is, however it comes, it comes, and it's our job to say yes when we do. So thank you.